It was hard for me to watch you taking the top off the rocket mass heater after all the work we put into it.
I can fix it.
Welcome back to Winter in Vermont. I'm Jill, my partner is Charles, and we're supposed to be spending our first winter all snug and comfy in our off-grid yurt. But if you watched our last episode, you know the current score of this game is Vermont Winter 1 and Team Charles and Jill 0. If you haven't watched that episode, you should definitely go back and see that first, because we're about to pick up where we left off. We had just spent Christmas Eve moving back into our travel trailer and winterizing the yurt. We hadn't even had a chance yet to remove the cover from the RV because it was still covered with snow and ice. So here we are on New Year's Eve, taking advantage of a warm spell to get our backup home unwrapped. And we're back to carrying water like we did 2 years ago. But this time, thankfully, we can fill up at our own frost-free hydrant instead of borrowing water from a neighbor. For the past week, I've been trying to get in some remote hours from my workstation at the dinette, and Charles is designing our rocket mass heater 2.0. He's determined that it will still tie into the radiant floor system, and he has a plan that just might work. But first, he has to tear out the PEX tubing that got damaged by the heat from the burn chamber. So he's borrowed a hammer drill from a friend.
Ruptured right here. It was up against the bricks that got hot. I'd almost bet that I won't find any more ruptures out here. I could probably patch it back right there and everything would be fine, but I'm not going to take the chance and go back with copper.
So Charles, it was hard for me to watch you taking the top off the rocket mass heater after all the work we put into it.
Hard for you?
Yeah. What was it like for you to take the top off of your rocket mass heater?
It was sickening.
You've been doing these engineering experiments, and you never know for sure whether they're going to work out. But what you do know is that if it doesn't work out, you can fix it. What is it that makes you able to take risks and engineer solutions, even if they've never been done before and you don't know if they will work?
Because that's what I do. I design a lot of things that the vast majority of things I do work. Something comes up that doesn't work just quite right.
You can fix it?
Always. I can fix it.
Welcome back to our off-grid home build. I hope you can hear me over the wind. We're a few days into the new year. Of course, we're staying in the RV now that we've had the problem with the rocket mass heater. Charles is already back at work trying to get that fixed. He decided to run copper pipes through the rocket mass heater. So he pulled out all of the vinyl pipes. Charles borrowed a hammer drill to get into the rocket mass. It's amazing how hard that mud has become. Luckily, we had tried to save time and energy by putting sand into the rocket mass below that last layer of mud. And that turned out to be very fortunate when we had a problem with the pipes, because Charles was able to pull the pipes out. He left one section strategically right behind the burn chamber and used that to pull the copper piping replacement through there.
Pulling that tug, don't pull hard, just almost, I'm going to try pushing, get a little pressure. Woohoo!
It worked. Then he had to bend the copper pipe. He tried using a pulley, and that didn't work too well because the pipe wanted to kink on him.
Oh, shit.
So he went to a friend's workshop and borrowed a lathe to make a pipe bender. This was the soft kind of copper that comes in a coil, and Charles did eventually get it into pretty much the shape that he needed. But it was definitely more difficult to work with than the PEX pipes. He wasn't able to cram quite as much of it into the bench, and he had to do a bit more demolition to get the job done. And what he needs to do now is solder the seam in the copper pipe as well as the fittings on either end, rinse out any dirt that may have gotten in there, pressure test the system, and start to fill the mass back in and repair that. So if all goes well, he will be able to fill the new section with glycol and tie it back into the radiant system. We will be back in business and able to move back into the yurt and be nice and cozy for the rest of the winter. Fingers crossed. Now the copper pipe needed to be tied back in with the radiant floor system, and that involved some soldering. That was kind of exciting because the residue of the antifreeze got burned off in the process. Then we flushed any dirt out of the lines with water. And it was finally time for the pressure test. Which thankfully it passed. Finally, Charles added more glycol to the system, although the mix of new and old stuff was looking a little green after our misadventure. We weren't too worried about what it looked like, we just wanted to make sure it was completely full. So he opened up the valves to let it flow through the whole loop again and waited for it to stop bubbling.
I'm completely convinced the lines are all full of antifreeze now, with no air bubbles.
Can you say that to the camera?
I said, I am completely convinced now that all the lines are completely full of antifreeze.
That's awesome.
All the lines in the floor, all the lines in the mass, no air bubbles, completely full. Get this mass filled back in, get the curtain down, fire it up. I've repaired the tubing that went through the mass by changing out the PEX with copper. And then there was some bricks that had come loose, fire bricks in the burn box that had come loose. So I repaired that, some extra mortar mix, put it back together, and I've had a space heater going in the burn box for the last 2 days to cure it. And now it has to be cured with higher temps, so I'm getting ready to put the first fire in it.
Hello, I hope you can see behind me that there is smoke coming out of the chimney of the yurt, which is very exciting. Let's go see how it's going in there, and let's give it a sniff test, because the last time there was a fire in the rocket mass heater, it was burning off the fumes of the leaked propylene glycol from the tubes of the radiant floor heat, and that was so disgusting. And I really have to convince myself that it's gone before I would consider moving back into the yurt. So fingers crossed, let's go see what it looks like and smells like. What you doing?
Hooking the faucet lines back up.
You must be hopeful then.
Hopefully I can turn the water back on tomorrow sometime.
Well, I do detect a faint smell of something slightly industrial, but it's not terrible. It's really pretty tolerable out here. Obviously, the top of the rocket mass heater still needs to be repaired. So that's a spring project for when we can mix up some nice wet mud and do all of those warm weather activities. But Charles is going to put some cement board on top of that in the meantime, just to keep the cats from messing with the dirtiest part of the mass.
Trying to use as a litter box.
If you've been following us for a while, you know that we love our travel trailer. So living in it hasn't been a big deal, but it isn't skirted this winter, and we've been going through propane pretty fast. And we don't have our janky mud room this time around. So a heavy snow would be a real pain, and we're motivated to get back into the yurt as soon as it's livable.
De-winterizing the yurt. Turning the water back on, getting everything working again. We're fully functional now.
So we can move in tomorrow?
We can.
There's a little bit of daylight left, and I have to work tomorrow, so Charles is probably going to move most of the things while I'm at work, but I'm feeling restless, and I think it wouldn't hurt to get a few things moved over tonight. So here we go. I went to work in the snow and I came back, got some groceries. I'm about to find out how much Charles has gotten done on the move back into the yurt. Well, the bad news is he hasn't got very far. Charles actually has a stomach bug right now. The good news is we have a freezer big enough for pizzas. And the other good news is we can finally wash our laundry. We've been saving it for 2 weeks, and we don't have to wash the dishes by hand anymore. So although I'm tired and the last thing I feel like doing is moving today, by the end of today, I think we're going to be very relieved that this is hopefully behind us. Look who's still over here in the trailer. You ready to move? It's 5 o'clock. We've got everything put away. Charles is too tired to talk to the camera. I'm out here to get our last load of wood for the evening, hopefully. I'm sure you can imagine that it's nice to be back in the yurt, but the elbow room is not the nicest thing. The nicest thing is actually the wood heat and how it makes you feel warm in a way that propane furnaces blowing air in your face definitely do not. So we're going to sit down, put up our feet, and watch some YouTube.